32-year-old Jennifer was having the worst day of her life. She had just been fired from her job as a marketing manager, a position she'd worked hard to achieve. Her boss had called her into his office that morning and delivered the news coldly. "We're downsizing. Your position is being eliminated. You have until Friday to clear out your desk." Jennifer left the building in shock, barely aware of her surroundings. She sat in her car for 20 minutes, unable to process what had happened. She had bills to pay, a mortgage to cover, and now no source of income. Panic began to set in. She drove aimlessly for an hour before finding herself in an unfamiliar neighborhood. She parked near a small coffee shop and went inside. Hopping a hot drink would calm her nerves. The place was cozy and quiet, with only a few customers scattered at various tables. Jennifer ordered a large coffee and sat by the window, staring blankly at the street outside. Her phone kept buzzing with messages from colleagues who had heard the news, but she couldn't bring herself to respond. She felt humiliated, worthless, and terrified about the future. "Excuse me," a gentle voice said. Jennifer looked up to see an elderly woman standing beside her table. She had warm brown eyes and a kind smile. "I don't mean to intrude, but you look like you're having a difficult day. Would you mind if I joined you?" Jennifer wanted to say no, that she preferred to be alone, but something about the woman's sincerity made her nod. The woman sat down carefully, holding her own cup of tea. "I'm Margaret," the woman introduced herself. "I come here every Tuesday afternoon. It's my little ritual." "I'm Jennifer," she replied quietly. Margaret didn't push for conversation. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Margaret said softly, "I lost my husband 2 years ago. For months afterward, I couldn't understand how life could continue without him. Every morning felt impossible." Jennifer looked at Margaret with surprise. She hadn't expected such an intimate confession from a stranger. "I share this," Margaret continued, "because I learned something important during that dark time. When we're suffering, we often feel completely alone. But kindness, even from strangers, can remind us that we're part of a larger human family. Small acts of compassion carried me through the worst days." "I just lost my job," Jennifer found herself saying. "I don't know what I'm going to do." Margaret reached across the table and gently patted Jennifer's hand. "That must be frightening. But let me tell you something I've learned in my 78 years. Endings often lead to new beginnings that we couldn't have imagined. What feels like a catastrophe today might become a blessing in disguise." Jennifer wanted to believe her, but everything felt hopeless. "I spent 10 years building my career. Now I have to start over." "Or," Margaret suggested, "you have an opportunity to build something different, maybe something better. Sometimes life pushes us out of situations that weren't truly serving us, even if we didn't realize it at the time." They talked for over an hour. Margaret shared stories about her own challenges, losing her business during a recession, caring for her sick mother, dealing with her husband's death. Despite these hardships, she remained optimistic and gracious. Before leaving, Margaret gave Jennifer her phone number. "If you ever need someone to talk to, please call me. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we're not alone." That encounter planted a seed in Jennifer's mind. If this elderly woman could show such kindness to a complete stranger, maybe there was more goodness in the world than Jennifer had been seeing. She drove home feeling slightly less hopeless. Over the next weeks, Jennifer struggled with unemployment. She sent out dozens of resumes, attended interviews, and faced multiple rejections. Money became tight. She had to use her savings to pay bills. There were days when depression overwhelmed her, and she stayed in bed, unable to face the world. During these difficult times, she would remember Margaret. They had exchanged several phone calls, with Margaret always offering encouragement without judgment. "Keep going," Margaret would say. "You're stronger than you think." One afternoon, while walking through the park to clear her head, Jennifer encountered a young woman sitting on a bench, crying. Jennifer's first instinct was to walk past. She had her own problems to deal with. But then she remembered how Margaret had approached her in the coffee shop. She sat down beside the young woman. "Are you okay? Can I help?" The woman, who introduced herself as Lisa, explained that she had just failed an important exam and felt like a failure. Jennifer listened patiently, offering the same kind of compassionate presence that Margaret had given her. "Failure doesn't define you," Jennifer said gently. "It's just information about what needs to change. I recently lost my job, something I thought would destroy me, but a wise woman told me that endings can lead to unexpected beginnings. I'm starting to believe she might be right." Lisa looked at Jennifer with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for stopping. Most people just walked past." That interaction changed something in Jennifer. She realized that even while struggling with her own challenges, she could still offer kindness to others. In fact, helping Lisa had made her feel better, more purposeful and less consumed by her own problems. She started volunteering at a local community center, helping people update their resumes and practice interview skills. Many of the people she worked with were facing similar employment challenges. Jennifer found meaning in supporting them, sharing what she'd learned from her own experiences. 3 months after losing her job, Jennifer received a call from a small marketing startup. They had seen her volunteer work and were impressed by her dedication. "We can't offer the same salary as your previous position," the founder admitted, "but we can offer you equity in the company and the chance to build something from the ground up." Jennifer accepted. The new job was challenging but fulfilling in ways her previous position had never been. She had more creative freedom, worked with passionate colleagues, and felt genuinely excited about her work. 6 months into her new position, Jennifer invited Margaret to lunch to thank her for the kindness she'd shown that difficult day. Margaret was delighted to hear about Jennifer's new job and volunteer work. "You see," Margaret said with a knowing smile, "life had better plans for you. Sometimes we need to lose what's comfortable to find what's truly meaningful." Jennifer agreed. "You know what's funny? I thought you were helping me that day in the coffee shop, but in a way, our conversation helped me discover something important about myself. I learned that I could choose to be kind even when I was hurting. That changed everything." Margaret nodded wisely. Kindness is powerful precisely because it doesn't require us to be happy or successful. We can offer it at any moment, regardless of our circumstances. And when we do, it transforms both the giver and the receiver. Jennifer continued her volunteer work even after finding employment. She made it a point to notice people who seemed to be struggling, in line at the grocery store, at the gym, in the park, and offer a kind word or helpful gesture. She had learned from Margaret that these small acts could have profound impacts. Years later, Jennifer would look back on losing her job as one of the best things that ever happened to her. It had forced her to rebuild her life in a more authentic way. More importantly, it had taught her about the transformative power of kindness, both receiving it and giving it. She stayed in touch with Margaret, visiting her regularly. Their friendship, which had begun with a simple act of compassion in a coffee shop, became one of the most meaningful relationships in Jennifer's life. Margaret had shown her that even in our darkest moments, we have the power to create light for ourselves and for others. Jennifer made it her mission to pass on what Margaret had taught her. She became known among friends and colleagues as someone who always had time to listen, who noticed when people were struggling, and who offered help without judgment. She had learned that kindness wasn't just a nice gesture. It was a fundamental force that connected people and created ripples of positive change that extended far beyond the initial act.